Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of the Focus on Photography podcast with Rusty Brown. Appreciate you guys taking the time out today. Today I'm going to be talking about what it takes to establish a sound workflow in your photography. Now, if you're only listening, that's cool. I'm going to try to talk my way through it, but I'm going to be showing a couple of demonstrations today on screen that you will be able to see if you're watching on the Focus on Photography YouTube channel. So even if you're listening, if you want to go back and see some of the things that I'm talking about today, when you get in front of a computer, bring up the show and you should be good to go. Establishing a photography workflow for photography is not glamorous. It's not sexy. It's not fun, but it's necessary. It's very easy for your photography to get away from you if you don't pay attention to this critical portion of your overall photography ecosystem. So I'm going to point out what I think are 5 essential tips to building the foundation for your photography workflow. Just 5, right? So let's jump right into it. Tip number 1, when you're on a photo shoot, don't delete any pictures from the memory card. No matter how bad you think it is, how much is out of focus, what you see on the rear view screen or in the electronic viewfinder, don't delete from the card. Tip number 2, don't fully exhaust the memory card. In other words, don't shoot until you can't shoot anymore. That's very dangerous, and you run the risk of losing all of your images or causing the memory card to go into a state that it becomes very difficult to retrieve the images. How many shots you have left depends on a lot of different factors, like, are you shooting RAW, and then what type of RAW? There are multiple types of RAW. Are you shooting RAW and JPEG to the same card, as some cameras will do? Are you shooting JPEG only? These are pretty much the core considerations that are going to tell you how much storage, how many images you can get on a card. And I'll show you how easy it is to find. We're going to take my camera right here, and I'm going to connect it up to the computer so you can take a look and see how to determine how many shots you have left. So I've connected my Sony. Whoops, don't mean to turn that around. I'm going to cause you confusion. I've connected my Sony a7 R5. Now, you see a lot of stuff on the screen. For the purposes of today's conversation, I want you to look up at the upper left-hand corner right here. And what you see there is you'll see an arrow with an overview of a memory card that has a number 2 in it, which means that I'm shooting to the second card slot. The number you see there, 627, is not how many shots I've taken. It's how many shots are left. If you look just to the right of that, you'll see what I was talking about before, where it says RAW, and then in the bottom right of the RAW box, you see an L. So that means I'm not just shooting compressed RAW, I'm shooting lossless compressed RAW, which in and of itself basically means that there's more data because it's lossless. As an example, this camera normally does about 62 to 63 megapixels on regular compressed RAW, but lossless takes it up to 80 to 83. So they're large files. The point being, if you look at that upper left-hand corner, you see that I've got 627 images left, so I would still be good to shoot. What I'm saying, when I talk about tip number 2, don't exhaust it, when I'm constantly monitoring that number, I never let it get below 3 digits. So for me, 100 is as low as I'll go. So one other thing to keep in mind, this is just the Sony ecosystem. Your Canon, your Nikon, your Fuji, your Panasonic, whatever, it has it somewhere. And even if I go through the different display modes, at some point you want to have one up that always shows you how many are left. So I have multiple options of what I can see when I hit display. For me, this one's fine because it shows me the balance. This one shows me the balance. Notice that this one does not. So I don't shoot in this mode because I really need to know how many shots that I have left. So when you get to your camera, take a look at your own EVF, or you can look on the back of your screen, but you want to find on your camera where it tells you how many are there. And again, no matter the card, meaning whether it's a 64 gig, 128, 256, 512, don't care. Don't let it get down into the double digits because it's very easy to forget where you are. And then at that point, you could actually lose everything that's on that card. So that was tip number 2. Tip number 3, move the images from your memory card to your computer as soon as practical. So I'm talking about making a copy from everything that you shoot on the camera to get it onto a computer as soon as practical. I'm not saying complete the entire flow of culling and editing and exporting and doing all those neat things that you're going to have to do at some point in time. Tip 3 is just to have a different version, a second version of everything that you shot onto the computer. Now, for me, this week, not just this week, but for the last couple of years, I've been working on moonshots, meaning I've been trying to capture good shots of the moon, specifically a full moon. Earlier in the month, I tried, and not so much. A couple of years ago, I did really well, so much so that I found one that I thought was exquisite, and I ultimately printed it, and it's hanging on the wall downstairs. But this week, I had an opportunity to try to get some moonshots, and I did. So no matter the type of shoot that you did, whether it's an event, sporting thing, you're doing astrophotography or anything like I was doing the other night, this is how you should immediately get the images from the card to the computer. So we're gonna do that right here as well. So for me, it means, and I'll share the screen with you guys here. For me, it means taking out the memory card and putting it into the card reader. Now, I will say this. Copying your images from the memory card to the computer should not be random, meaning you're not just taking all of them and putting them anywhere on the computer. There should be a specific tree structure, whatever yours is, but you need to know where your images are going to go. As an example, I'll show you. In this case, I've already got an idea of where these moonshots are going to go. But let me share this part of the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so if you look here, this is on one of my external drives. I have a lot of different folders here, but if I come down to photography and then scroll down to the M's, there it is, moonshots. If I open up moonshots, you'll see different dates that I've attempted to get those shots. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy the images from the SanDisk memory card into a moonshots folder, but I have to create that folder, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a moment. First, we're going to put in the memory card so you can actually see what I see. Right, so I'm going to try to make both of these a little bigger, maybe a little bit easier to view. Also, we'll go side by side. All right, so what you see on the left side is the memory card. What you see on the right side is the computer. So if I go over to take a look at where the photos would be, and let me scroll down to the ones that I did recently. We're going to look at, okay, so that was the first. So I need to create a folder inside of Moonshot. So we'll do that. And this was done on the 1st of July. So we'll call it just that. Now I have a folder that represents the date that I did the most recent moonshots. So what I want to do is I want to open that folder up. I'm going to go to the first moonshot over on the left, which was, looks like it was at 3:42 a.m. I'm going to scroll down to the last one. And that would have been around, I want to say 4:02 before I started photographing some activity in the backyard with some rabbits. So imagine that this was all that you shot at your event or your photo shoot or your portrait session or your football game or whatever it was. Everything on the left is the card. So what I'm doing at this point here is we're just going to copy them over into a designated folder right here. And if you saw that number inside the box, it was 71. If you didn't, that just means At that time in the morning, I took 71 different shots of the moon. So this tip 3 is important because all we're doing now is getting them onto the computer. Bang, and there you go. If you look at that now, we actually have those over in the July folder. And if I go up and change my view to large icons, which I like to do, you see a bunch of different moonshots going all the way down, everything that I practiced. All those are unedited. Now we actually have a copy in moonshots, which is in photography, which is in this particular external 16 terabyte hard drive. So at that point, I can remove the card. Now for tip 4, what I want to do is I want to make a copy to a local drive other than the one that we just did on the PC. So just in the way of reviewing, if you take a look at what we just did, you look at this image here, we took the images from the camera. We put the memory card inside the computer and we copied them over to a designated folder. That's what this picture represents. So now you have your images on the computer. Well, this next step, this tip 4, is to take those same images now and back them up. And if you look at what I have at the top, it tells you that on the top left, I'm sorry. What I'm saying is that the source drive, which is where we just put the images, is on the left, and you see the destination is an external SSD. In this case, it's called the backup, and you see it on the right side of the screen. That is making a copy of everything, and we're not doing it from the memory card, folks. We're doing it from the actual computer itself. There's another version of it here, just gives you a different reflection. Again, you see the folder on the left, project folders, it's called here, which for me would have been moonshots. And then you see the external backup, the SSD that's on the right. That is your tip 4 to make sure that you have that there at that point in time. We've now given ourselves, we have the original images here from the card. We have the ones that we put on the computer in whichever drive you want. Me personally, I use an external for everything, but that 16 terabyte is where the images go. Then you do a backup or another copy to something that looks like this, which is fine, which is, these little small ones. You can use something a little more durable. So this one is from SanDisk, and this one is from Samsung. It's called the T7 Shield. They both do the same thing. I like using SSDs for those. SSDs are they're just faster. They don't have any moving parts, and it allows you to move big files quickly, right? So now you have that, and now we get to the last tip, which is tip 5. Tip 5 is called what I call to import your files, which is going to sound a little odd because theoretically we've imported the pictures and they're on the computer, and we also have them on a secondary disk. When I talk about tip 5 and importing, I'm saying that we must now use whatever software package we use to manage our photos and point that package to where those photos are. For me, that software package is by Adobe. It's called Lightroom Classic, meaning I use Lightroom Classic to manage my tree structure, to manage my photos. I did not use Lightroom, you may have noticed, to copy the photos from the card to the computer, which is doable. I just don't like to do it that way. Once I have everything on the computer, the final step for me is to use Lightroom Classic to point to those files and then register with Lightroom. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So first we will bring up Lightroom. So we're in Lightroom now, right? So what I would want to do now is, at this point, we're going to go down to the bottom left. We want to click Import. Screen goes away. We want to go to that 16 terabyte drive. When I click on the little arrow on the side, everything on the 16 drops. Remember, it was in a tree, which was called Photography, which is here. And then when in Photography, I had a folder called Moonshots. We go down to Moonshots, open up that, and you'll notice the different dates. And the ones that we wanted to do were from July 1st, 2026. When I click on those, you'll see all these different checks of all these different moonshots. Now, what's important to note here is we're not copying these files from one place to another. This is what I like about importing. If I do an import here on the bottom, you'll see at the top, it says add. So again, import means you're just adding. You're not changing the location. You're basically creating pointers from this software package to that particular hard drive to where those images are. I don't use assisted culling. Some people do. I don't trust it. We can talk about that on a different podcast. This is just to keep it basic because we are on step 5. So now that I've said that and it's pointing to where the images actually are, I come down to the bottom right. I click on import, and you'll see 2 operations at the top, while at the same time it's building the standard previews. And like I said, we had 71 different shots of the moon. Those previews that you see scrolling on the status bar at the top left, when those are done, all my previews are done. I really do think I got a couple of good winners in there on that full moon. At least I hope I do. I'm not going to go through those now because that's going to take a while, and I really want to take my time with doing that. So as you're looking at that go away, at some point the standard previews are done. You see it now, and now it's all said and done. And I have pointed my Lightroom to the folder that has all of the different moonshots in it. Okay, so I use Lightroom for that. You can use whatever you want. The challenge with Lightroom is that it's a subscription-based software package, right? I got to pay something every year to keep that. If you don't want to use a subscription-based, software package, you can get one of the many ones that are very similar to Lightroom. They manage files in the same way, but they don't have a subscription. So you pay once and you get to own it. Luminar Neo is one. On One is one. I think there's one called Darktable. There's several different ones that you can go get to do the same thing. The important thing is to make sure that whatever you're using to manage your overall photography knows where those images are. Everything you do with those images going forward is going to add a step to your overall workflow process. But none of that can happen if you don't take care of those first 5. What I mean by that is everything else we do afterwards is built on a solid foundation. And I believe that if we do what I just walked you through each and every time, it becomes like muscle memory. You don't want to leave the card in the camera for a long period of time after a shoot. You don't want to just rely on your images being on the card and not moving them somewhere. You need to get it into at least 2 places, my opinion, right off the break. Those 2 places are somewhere on your main computer and somewhere on an external drive. If you want to see my entire end-to-end workflow, I do have a video on my other YouTube channel. I'll put a link to that in the description. I didn't do any further backups for today under the Core 5 because the images aren't ready. But once you've gone through and you've culled, you've edited, you've finalized, and you've exported, at that point, whatever you decide to back up to, you need to do at least one more from the Core 5. In my case, I do one to the network attached storage, and I do one to one of these just so that I have it. The last thing I'll say is this: at some point in time, you're going to have to format the memory card that you use for the shoot. Like I'm going to have to format this card here from the moonshots. Do not format this card on the PC or the laptop. I did use the PC to copy the files to, from the card to the folder, but I never ever use, do my format on the card. Format your card in the camera and hopefully in the camera that you use regularly. But this is better suited to format this than your computer is. And the other thing I do too here is I don't format them right away. When you format yours, or whether you do it all, really depends on how many you have. I have a system where I have a few memory cards, again, purchased before the big memory heist of the AI 2026. But I'm going to try to, I'll explain this, but I'm going to show it to those that are watching. So this is a protective case for, where is it, right there? Yeah, this is a protective case for all of my memory cards. I have multiple cases. I think you can get up to 12, maybe more. Let's take a look inside of it, but it's waterproof, crush proof, etc. So in this case, yes, it's 12. And take a look on the inside. If you can see the tip, the metal tip of the memory card, that means that images are still on there. If you see the SanDisk logo, that means it's ready to be used. So I'll take the card from the moonshot, and when I put it into the SD card case, it now is showing pins. And the pins simply mean that I have not formatted or reformatted that card yet. When I go out on the next shoot, I will grab one of these that's already ready to go. At some point, I will reuse these other cards. And when I reuse them, I will format them in the camera, not on the computer, right? Um, so that's it. I think if you build your foundation, those 5 easy principles, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, you give yourself wiggle room. I got a really good friend who's an excellent photographer, and just last week he had a situation where he couldn't locate a shoot that he did 2 years ago, and he couldn't locate a shoot that he did 2 weeks ago, and both of those instances happened in the same week. And we got online and we shared screens, and he's got a lot of folders all over the place. But what I didn't see, I didn't see organization. So I'm going to say something that I believe is critically important. And I don't care if you're a pro, a hobbyist like me, you're just starting out. If you can't find the images that you shot from whatever the period is, your workflow is broken. Okay. It's one thing to be excited enough to get them all on the computer and go away. But if you don't understand the foundational principles of your workflow, it's broken and it doesn't serve you. Now, you may have a situation where you've taken shots 5, 6 years ago that aren't on your current computer. It's okay. At least you know that you can go to wherever you back them up externally, or if you have a network attached storage, you know how to get to them. There's a lot to be said for how you name them. Like for me, I just think logically, photography, moonshots, and dates, but you can get very specific. Events, weddings, events, family reunions, events, this kind of thing. You know what I mean? The more specific you can be, the easier it is to find. So that if someone were to ask me 3 years from now, hey, weren't you taking pictures of the moon? Where would they be? I'm going to go, if at the minimum, I can come to my computer and do a search on moon or moonshots, and it's going to show me that tree structure. But because I'm more comfortable with my core 5, I will be able to find it, and it'll be on a backup for photography projects, or it'll be somewhere on the drive that I'm currently using. That's why we must have, a sound workflow. It's got to be foundationally sound, because we're only as good as what we can go back and get. And then I would also say this: what's the impact if you lose an image or images? Now, obviously, if you're working for someone and you have a client and you lose them as a photographer, that's a deal breaker. That's a deal breaker. But say you're not a pro, or you're not shooting professionally. What if you went on a once in a lifetime trip, the safari that you've been planning for 5, 10, 15 years, and you do this amazing job over the course of a week or 10 days, and you come back with thousands of images, because I'm assuming you're shooting in burst mode, you've got a bunch of cards and stuff, and you come back and you don't put those images on your computer and then back them up, and you lose that card or something happens. What's the probability that you're going to get back to that location to capture those same memories again if it took you 10 years or more in the first place? So I would ask you to put a value on the images themselves. And if they have no value to you, then don't back them up, don't do whatever. But if you think there's going to be the smallest possibility that, you want to keep these, if not for a lifetime, for the foreseeable future, you have to put as much time into your workflow establishing it. I don't mean as much time in it, but you have to put the same care and consideration into setting up your foundation of a workflow that you put into scheduling a shoot, that you put into spending hours and hours on the internet looking at new cameras, that you put into coordination, that you put into all other aspects of your photography. This deserves as much of that attention. The beauty of it is that once you do it, you don't have to do it again. It's there. This foundation that I've shown you today, I've been using for at least 15 years. It's plug and play. You go where you go. You get a series of drives. I have multiple backup drives now because it's been years. No harm, no foul. And I'll say this too. I don't have an issue with an HDD. They are cheaper, but they're more prone to fail. So you take that for what it's worth. Mines are not used as portables. I mean, I'm not constantly plugging them in. I don't travel with them. They don't do all that. They stay right here in the home office. But at some point in time, it may actually fail. So you have to determine, what you're going to do at that. And I go into that more on the video that I told you about. But don't think that you have to buy expensive SSDs just because they're faster. And yes, they're more reliable. If your budget only calls for one, like mine did many years ago, I'd have one of these puppies no matter what I shot. The backup was on there, but I just felt better about it. And then as my photography skills grew and I started shooting more, and then I started shooting differently, meaning different types of photography, having this workflow just became that much more important. There are times, and 2 weeks ago, I think it was one of them, I was out for 2 days on a shoot. A lot of shooting, was very physically demanding, a lot of walking, getting your miles in, etc. When I came home, I did what I just showed you here before I went to sleep and took a nap. I just made sure I had my stuff on the computer. And to this day, I haven't done anything with those shots from that very shoot. But I know that I still have the card face up. I still have every image on the computer. And I have a copy of the images on the backup. And when I do go to work with them, I'll then have 2 more copies of them. So that's what I meant when I was at, I think it was, what was that? Was that tip number 2? No, actually it was tip number 3. I'm sorry. To move them as soon as practical. And in some cases, if it's important enough to you, like the Safari we mentioned, and you have a laptop with you, use it. Go out, do your Safari shoot that day, take everything you had and copy it to the laptop. Now you have it there and the laptop. And if you traveled with a little external, you can do everything we talked about there. Get home, put a copy on your permanent machine, right? So if you haven't been able to tell, I'm just passionate about workflow, and I think you should be too. If you have any questions or you need some assistance in setting up your workflow, or you think that your workflow could use a bit of tweaking or whatever, let me know. Hit me up. You can hit me in the comments, or you can send me a direct email. I'll be glad to help you out with your workflow if needed. That's all I had today. Just wanted to get that out there and talk to you guys. Like I say every week, I'm really glad that you take the time to watch and to listen. It means a lot. This is important to me, and hopefully because you're listening and watching, it's important to you. Until next time, I hope you're having a great summer. Continue to do so, and I hope that your photography is leveling up in a way that makes you extremely happy. Until next time, bye-bye.